Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. All images used in this video are under fair use of United States copyright law of 1976 and are used in conjunction with my commentary. Megan Fitzmartin has been one of the worst things to ever happen to the Tim Drake character. And under Megan Fitzmartin, Tim Drake stopped being a character of his own and became a piece of her own fan fiction. Now, before Megan Fitzmartin got a hold of Tim Drake's character, Tim Drake was a major part of the DC universe and was a major staple of the entire Batman family. Now, when Tim Drake came into the Batman family in the storyline Batman: A Lonely Place of Dying, he was in the story to show why Batman needs a Robin. Now, Tim Drake was a young boy who deduced through observation that Bruce Wayne was Batman and Dick Grayson was Robin, and he began to notice that Batman's behavior was becoming more and more erratic after the loss of Jason Todd. And after the loss of Jason Todd, Tim Drake wanted to go to Dick Grayson to ask him to take back the role of Robin, not understanding that Dick Grayson had grown out of the role of Robin as he was working as the leader of the new Teen Titans and working at the side of Adrian Chase as his deputy before he became the vigilante. And as Dick Grayson was learning more and more about crime fighting and police work from Adrian Chase and learning how to lead other heroes as the head of the Teen Titans, which grew to become the Titans, Dick Grayson had outgrown being Batman's partner, but Batman was not able to deal with his own emotions as related to seeing his boy Wonder growing up to become a man. And because he was in an emotional place, Bruce went out here and impulsively chose Jason Todd, the son of a single mother, to become the next Robin. Unfortunately, Jason Todd, because he was a beta male who was raised in a single mother household, was very emotional, angry, and violent and impulsive. And as a result of him being emotional, violent, and impulsive, he wound up participating in several actions that ran counter to Batman, such as using a gun in one encounter and pushing an individual who violated a woman who had diplomatic immunity off a building, possibly, or letting him die. Again, things that violated Batman's code. And even when he brought Barbara Gordon in to observe him, she said he was getting too dark. And this made Jason Todd a liability in the field, and it made him a liability in the field to the point where the Joker took advantage of his emotions. And this is what led to the classic story, A Death in the Family, which came before A Lonely Place of Dying, which led to Batman going solo for a while until Tim Drake came along and deduced who Batman was and went out here and tried to unsuccessfully persuade Nightwing to become Robin again. But then he realized that Batman needed a Robin, and he needed a Robin because a Robin would inspire him as related to his passion for crime fighting, because Bruce Wayne was the first Robin, one, and two, it would remind him of the 8-year-old boy who lost his parents and give him perspective so that he would not become too dark when he entered the field. So Robin was an essential part of Batman, and Tim Drake gave him perspective on it as he became a Robin. And after he became a Robin and asked Bruce to train to become the next Robin, he went on to become the next Robin and became an icon of the 90s as a hero, not only in Batman and detective books, but also what became an icon because he was the first Robin to carry an entire series on his own and carried an entire series for over 200 issues. I mean, Tim Drake basically is one of those legendary heroes who could prove he could carry his own book, and he carried his own book as a heterosexual hero for over 20 years, having an on and off relationship with Stephanie Brown, the spoiler, who was a major part of his cast of his own book. But Megan Fitzmartin wasn't happy with the idea of Tim Drake being heterosexual and unilaterally decided that the character would become Alphabet because she read so much fan fiction as related to Tim Drake and Connor Kent being Alphabet, not understanding that Tim Drake and Connor Kent were like brothers, and that was to put them in the frame of being just like Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne, DC's world's finest. So they were supposed to be like DC's world's finest, but Megan Fitzmartin went out here and tried to sexualize Tim Drake in order for her to have her own fantasies about Tim Drake. And again, this is why DC editorial was just sad to me, because any good editor would have checked Megan Fitzmartin and let her know that you don't get to unilaterally change a character's sexual orientation, but she got that pass, and then they looked to make it a PR stunt as related to selling identity politics. And sadly, this is what led to the Tim Drake Robin series ending on this 10th issue. And as it ended on this 10th issue, it throws one big middle finger up at longtime Tim Drake fans on this 22nd page. And this 22nd page is the ultimate disrespect to longtime comic fans, because it opens up with the page saying, "I never wanted to be Batman. I never wanted to be Robin. All I wanted to be in life was my dad." And again, this is just absolutely terrible writing, and it's terrible writing because it runs counter to everything every comic fan knows about the Tim Drake character. No, every comic fan who knows the Tim Drake character knows that Tim Drake wanted to go out here and be Robin, and he wanted to be Robin because he understood that Batman needed a Robin, and he understood that Batman needed a Robin to give him perspective because Gotham needed a Batman, and in order for there to be a Batman, there needed to be a Robin to give him perspective. This is something that was established way back in 1989 in Batman: A Lonely Place of Dying, and we have Megan Fitzmartin saying, Tim Drake never wanted to be Batman or want Robin, and that's BS because we know that Tim Drake always wanted to be Robin. Again, when he realized that Dick could not fulfill the role and was not able to do so, he put himself in that role. Moreover, as he was training with Batman, he aspired to be the next Batman, learning all of the techniques from Batman as related to becoming the world's greatest detective, or on his road to becoming the next world's greatest detective. So everybody who has read DC Comics in the 90s basically got a middle finger thrown up at them, because we know the Tim Drake character, one, wanted to be Robin because he felt that Batman needed a Robin and knew that Batman needed a Robin, and two, he aspired to be a detective like Batman, and he wanted to actually take over the role of Batman. And this was shown in a future version of the Teen Titans of Tim Drake being Batman. So Megan Fitzmartin is basically making up her own stories, and sadly, the simps over at DC Comics are rubber stamping those stories, like this final issue of Tim Drake Robin, a series that I believe deserves to end with its poor sales, because it basically assassinates the character of Tim Drake that all of us longtime comic fans knew back from 1989 to be a heterosexual man who had a long relationship with Stephanie Brown, and also we knew that he always wanted to be Robin, and he was Robin when he met Stephanie Brown. And one of the things that I found to be, again, disturbing and offensive to me was the fact that they ended his relationship with Stephanie Brown so abruptly so that they could shoehorn his relationship with Bernard. And again, the entire relationship with Bernard was never organic. It was just a piece of fan fiction that Megan Fitzmartin wanted to shoehorn onto the character, who had been with Stephanie Brown off and on for 20 years, but you're going to tell me he's going to walk away from this woman. Moreover, you're going to try to tell me that she's just going to accept this other partner in her relationship and everything's just going to be okay. No, this is just Megan Fitzmartin looking to shoehorn her own personal fantasies and project them onto the character. And again, when I look at this story of Tim Drake, I just look at it and go, a good writer would come in and say, this is all mind control from Bernard, and make Bernard a villain, but you can't do that these days because they would say you are being homophobic or something like that. But the whole thing is, when I look at this page right here, it's just disrespectful to every comic fan because it says, I never wanted to be Robin, when he always wanted to be Robin. He always wanted to be a part of the Bat family. He just wanted Dick Grayson to come back to the role so that Batman would not be going crazy like he did. Again, this Megan Fitzmartin has destroyed the Tim Drake character over the course of 2 years with her character assassination, and because she has identity politics as a shield, there's no way to again fix much of the continuity damage she's done to this character with her terrible writing over the course of the Gotham series and this Tim Drake Robin series, which basically destroys everything that we know about the character to be true. And again, one of the worst comics I have ever read in my life, because it shows how DC editorial has no respect for their characters, allowing Megan Fitzmartin to basically destroy this character. I mean, the simps over at DC have no backbones or stones to check Megan Fitzmartin. You're just going to let a woman unilaterally decide she's going to change a character's sexual orientation. She's going to unilaterally decide to change a character's story, and she's going to get a pass for all of this. Whereas if a guy wanted to do this, they would hold him accountable. And again, I look at Tim Drake's character, and again, I grew up with this character, read this character for over 30 years, and it's sad to see this character get assassinated like this. And in the final issue of a book that isn't selling, we have them going out here and trying to tell us, oh, the Tim Drake Robin is never wanted to be Robin, when everything in A Lonely Place of Dying told us that he was the one who said Batman needed a Robin, and because Dick Grayson would not be Robin, he was the one who stepped up to that role in Batman A Lonely Place of Dying's final issue to become the third Robin. But because Megan Fitzmartin is a terrible writer on a terrible series, they have assassinated this character overall, and it's going to take one great writer to come back and fix this character and get this character on track. After this character assassination that is done on this page, it is this character assassination done in these 3 panels one writer's going to have to fix, because I'm reading this whole thing, and again, it's emotional writing. She says, oh, I never wanted to be Batman. I never wanted to be Robin. All I wanted to be in life was my dad. And again, why would he even want to go out here and be the next Robin or work with Batman? Because he already had his father in his life. I mean, if Megan Fitzmartin did her research on the Tim Drake character, she would know that his father was in his life before he became Robin. Jack Drake was in Tim Drake's life, but because Megan Fitzmartin does no research, she goes out here and writes these panels that basically run diametrically opposed to everything that the character is, and again shows me what happens when you go out here and hire a writer based on identity politics instead of having an understanding of the character. And again, you'll have people in comics saying, oh, we don't want to hire any comic fans. Well, again, as a comic fan who has been reading comics for over 30 years and writing his own stories on the SJS Direct imprint and writing his own characters, I want to make sure that my characters are consistent from story to story. And when I look at this writing, it shows me how low the standards have fallen at DC Comics, because how can Tim Drake say he wanted to be his dad when his dad was in his life, and say that he never wanted to be Robin when he wanted to become Robin because he saw Batman on a dark road and he wanted to be the light to inspire him to be better?
and again, showing no understanding at all of the character and showing me how far the comics industry has fallen, because if this kind of writing is the standard, then comics are really in a free fall into a further abyss than they've fallen in the last 30 years of the medium. I mean, this is sad as I see it. I mean, I thought we had hit rock bottom with the just complete collapse of the industry in the 90s, but we're falling further than that when people like Megan Fitzmartin are allowed to just unilaterally destroy characters like Tim Drake and put them in books as bad as this, that basically show how little she cares about the character and puts her own personal feelings and own personal ideas above being consistent as related to the character. This kind of book right here, again, shows me that she doesn't care about the character. It's all about her. And I remember a time in comics when editorial saw a writer like this, they would give them their walking papers or never consider them. And sadly, standards have fallen to an extreme low that she's allowed to go out here and destroy the Tim Drake character, a character that DC made millions in merchandising on, a character that they sold millions of copies of Robin and Teen Titans and Young Justice on. They have basically taken this character from being one of the top properties at DC Comics, and this whole final issue of Tim Drake Robin is basically the rock bottom of the character. And it just shows what happens when you have creator excesses go too far, and there's no editorial there with a backbone or stones to restrain them, because a lot of these editors, they're probably afraid, oh, they'll be called a sexist or a racist. But the whole thing is, you need to be true to your characters, and this is me, a black man, saying this. When you are an editorial, it's your job to check people like Megan Fitzmartin, and if they don't want to write the character the right way, you send them out the door, because it's better to send them out the door than have panels like this assassinate the character and destroy their character as a brand. Now, if you want to pick up my first comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, you can find that comic on Lulu right now in paperback. And if you want to pick up my first digital comic, Esteem No Good Deed, you can find it on Kindle for 99 cents, or you can get a copy for $5 by supporting the Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to help me be able to make my next comic, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App, and I'll be able to use that money to make my next Isis, Esteem, or John Haynes comic. Or you can go out here and pick up some of the books on the SJS Direct imprint, like the Isis series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, my sorority novel, The Fadas, my business novel, A Recipe for Success, a romantic comedy, or my vampire novel, Eternal Night. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, Godbreaker in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available on Lulu, John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at lulu.com today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.